Hi, Charles Pitts. I am wanting to talk about the incident that happened at the Red Iguana in Waukegan, Illinois. Um, I've I'm like a fourth generation Lake County resident. So I definitely saw the video that's been posted online. I also saw someone else give a commentary on what happened. I've read the letter of what the Red Iguana company has said. So, I guess still a lot of questions to be asked, and there's a bunch of policy and procedures that need to be created, and there's some oversight organizations or groups that need to be created. So right now, I don't believe Waukegan regulates its security force. So of all my years between living in Waukegan and uh, living in Lake County, I've never really heard of anyone talking about how security guards are regulated. I think for me, part of the issue is the video only shows like 10 seconds near the end of this confrontation, and then it's still kind of like in the middle of what was happening, because the guy got dropped to the ground, and like what happened next, and then like what happened before. So somebody got online talking about this was like an hour or a half an hour event that led up to that event. So there's just a bunch of questions that need to be asked as to, does Red Iguana have private security? Do they have like cameras in the building? And what is, are they going to produce that video? How are they going to preserve it? So like, what's going to happen to that video if there is any video? I think the other part of the thing is basically we're jumping off into the use of force. So when are security allowed to use like force on someone? If there's a fight, theoretically they're supposed to break it up and de-escalate and do all these different things. And I think there's a lot of failure that led to this situation, and I see it as years, if not centuries, of failures. So I see it as the city of Waukegan failing to properly monitor and create policy and procedure and laws on the use of force of private security. And I just don't think that Waukegan police, Waukegan monitors the behavior of security people. And I also see it as like a failure of leadership, of the aldermen, alderwomen as well, the mayor, the nonprofits who are supposed to be activists are advocating for police accountability measures. So the police accountability should be for anyone in authority who, especially for people who would use, who have weapons that could possibly use lethal force, and or anybody who would have authority to use physical force. So, the red iguana, like, to me, where they are liable is that in not knowing the use of force policies of that security company. And, because right now where they're at is this incident happened, and we don't, you know, what, like, on some levels, the club can't do much of. They're kind of stuck now, because it's like they should have known what their use of force policies is if the security company had anything. So they're liable in contracting out with them, and they might have created a culture where over violence overt violence was acceptable. So they might be liable like that. Now, I definitely believe the security company it's definitely liable, because I think there is a lack of understanding that when you use of force, there is always a risk of serious injury and or death. So basically, we don't know if the victim had any medical conditions that could have been fatal. There are definitely situations where one person will punch another person and they fall, and ultimately they die. So I think when they were handling or interacting with the victim, I don't think they really had that in mind. I think I'm just going on to. I think I'm going to move on to like the general orders. So Waukegan has they have general orders as to like use of force and different things, and I think I'm looking at general orders 5.1 and 5.7, and so and so it also leads into like how did the security respond after that, and how were they supposed to respond? So basically, I think they ultimately had a responsibility to de-escalate situations and try to resolve situations without things getting escalated. So what the victim has said is that he was outside of the restaurant, or just in the little entrance room, just wanting, one, to be acknowledged, and two, basically for them to get his other family members to leave. And I see that as a very reasonable request. Let's just get my family so I can leave. There's a bunch of questions around that, but ultimately they should have tried to get his family so that they could leave if that's what they wanted to do. And also, the thing is like, okay, use of force. So, like, there's levels of escalation. So, if somebody is jaywalking, the police really don't have the right to start shooting. And if somebody has a gun and they're shooting, the police have levels of escalation to deal with that situation. And someone in the club smoking, it's I think we just need to figure out how it happened. And I don't know if he was smoking in the club or not. And even if he was smoking in the club, this I just don't see how use of force got to a level where he was allegedly choked out. And the problem with it too is like he really wasn't like excessively resisting. I don't think he was resisting at all. He was just being dragged out of the club and then dropped on the ground. So I think there's what happened before that video. I think we need to figure that out. But I definitely think there's something wrong with it. I think I just really want to go back and state that the city has really failed in regulating private security. The city has failed in creating proper policy and procedure regarding police accountability. And I just took a glance at Waukegan's general orders, and it just seems like it's very limited and lacking as well. So I like where I'm at right now. There's certain weapons that the police aren't allowed to use, which are commonplace in other parts of the country. The baton with the little arm sticking out, that's I think that's banned where I'm at now. The use of tasers are banned where I'm at, used where I live at now. I think tasers are legal in Waukegan by police. That's a whole nother list of questions as to what weapons are how are weapons regulated by the private security? My belief is that, like where I live at, is a private security can't have or use handcuffs unless they're certified. So, like all of these different weapons that security have, I believe that they need to have some type of training and regulation. So I guess I'm just going back to like there's just a lot of failures over the years as to why we don't have proper monitoring, regulation, several things as to why why aren't these things like properly monitored, regulated? Oh, and the other situation is like a use of force law. The bartenders, the company might have moved a little bit too quickly, because I think they should have gotten a use of force report from the security, and then the club make a decision as to whether it was or was not excessive. And I think the club has said that their behavior was excessive and inappropriate. So I'm very close to that decision as to inappropriate use of force by the private security. But it's like we need to see what everybody has to say and then go from there. So I think I'm just, let me see. Yeah, so we definitely need like a civilian oversight committee for like the police department, and I think it should include like private security and a few other things. All right, and I think the other thing too is we need to flesh out if someone was inebriated, how do the police interact, our security interact with that type of person. So I don't know if he was inebriated or not, but he's in a bar, so I'm making the assumption he might have had something, but I don't know if he was inebriated or not. But I think we just need to see policy and procedure as to how they should interact and react with that type of situation. Um, I mean, I guess I think it's really my hope that um, the citizens demand a more in-depth uh, analysis and response, because I just don't like the idea that we keep jumping from police and security brutality incidences, and we don't really get anything substantial regarding accountability measures. So that's that's really like where I'm at with it. There's a lot of failures. It's a failures on the community. It's a failure on the government. It's a failure on the private security. There's a failure on um there's a failure on the club. So they say it takes a village to raise a child, and the village has failed. The village has really failed. I blame everybody because we got to this situation. Because and I'm sure this isn't the only time something outlandish has happened. It's just that this one has gotten it's definitely gone viral. Um, I just really hope that we demand long term policy and procedure changes, um, like upgrades in accountability measures. And it's like I think the tragic part of it is my years of interacting with some of the leadership in Waukegan. It seems like there's been a bunch of like smoke and mirrors and deception regarding accountability measures. Um, it's just like some of the leadership in Lake County, I think they're more fixated on being in charge than justice for our community. Um, yeah, we need a civilian oversight that would monitor and create best practices for these situations. All of that being said, I'm going to try to give you a link of the Waukegan use of force policy. So that would just be, that would be a starting point, and a very inferior starting point as to like use of force. You know, I think Waukegan's use of force policy, it has many holes in it. I think that's being said. Thank you.